Hi, Peter Keep and I have gotten together to start a new service. Pete is going to do most of the high-end, high-quality jewelry, very precise work, and I'm going to keep making the videos that I've always made, a little more practical stuff, basic tools. I'm going to start a new series using even more basic tools. For the newbies, for the beginners that are not quite sure that they want to invest in all of the expensive tools. So hope you'll enjoy what we're doing and appreciate it, and we'll be seeing you. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Peter Keep. Soham and I have been teaching beginners, students and professionals for many years. Now our lessons are online. There are 4 different levels, going from very basic jewellery making up to intricate stone setting. You can buy an individual lesson, pick a price plan, or just check out the free videos. Go to jewellerytrainingsolutions.com.au. I'm going to show you how to make this 2-component ring with wraparound shoulders and a round bezel holding a 7mm CZ. It's a great project if you're going from beginner stage to intermediate. You can then apply the same techniques to make similar rings such as this or this one. I'll start the project by using this 4.5mm square stock gauge silver. This is 30mm long. It's around about 6 grams. So if you're starting with some scrap and you're just melting it down, then around about 10 grams, and then roll it to 3.5mm square, and we'll take it from there. So I'll just roll this out now. I'm going to be setting a 7mm round stone in the setting, so I need to cut off a section and roll it flat to around about 1.3mm thick. So I'm going to cut off a section that's going to cover the length I need for that. So you might want to do some calculations by timesing the diameter by pi, but you also need to add at least 20% more because I'm going to form it in a collet block, and I like to have it a little bit bigger so that I can squeeze it down to size. So I'm cutting off around about 15mm. I've annealed both pieces, and I'm going to now roll the smaller piece till it's around about 1.4mm thick. I've annealed the piece again, and I'll just snip off the very ends to flatten them. So take off only a very small amount and just file them flat. And I'll just do a quick check on the length of this. I've got 26mm. So now I'm going to form that into a straight-sided setting, and then we're going to use a collet block. So when you're bending the metal, just grip the ends and then push around. Don't try and do all the work with the pliers, and if you do find it too tough, just use the side of the bench peg. That's all you need to do. You don't need to get the joint really tight together at this stage, and you'll see that the stone just sits inside, so we can shrink this setting to fit the stone. So I've got a collet block here that's a 17-degree collet block, and that means that the angle from the setting wall to the axis of the setting is 17 degrees. which makes the total angle from wall to wall 34 degrees. So just make sure that the collet block you've got isn't the very wide angled collet block. This is the standard one for making jewellery collets or settings. So first of all, just find a hole that it fits in and then just tap it in. Don't use the punch at this stage. So I'm tapping at both ends just to get the joint together. And then just work it down. And you can start seeing if the stone fits onto the setting, not into the setting. So the stone has to fit halfway into the thickness of the wall, which you will see shortly where I mean for that. So I'm not smashing it all the way in because it's almost at the right size for the setting. So I'll just place the stone on top, and it's now sat halfway into the thickness. So I'm going to leave it at that, and then I'm going to force it into the next smallest one. So this one is going to be a pretty much heavy duty smashing all the way down. So as you can see, there was no punch used for doing that, although now I'm going to use the punch just to lever the setting out. I know, just managed to get it. It's a good idea just to rub a little bit of wax or just spray a bit of WD-40 onto your setting block, because the settings can get stuck. So you can see that the setting is now forming. It's a little bit short, the setting. So I'm now going to use the punch, and by hammering the punch into the setting, it's going to start moving down into the collet block, and it'll just increase the height a little bit. If you've got earmuffs, put them on, because doing this kind of work can damage your ears. Before I do the final forming of this setting, I'm just going to run my saw blade through the joint, making sure I stay right on line, because that joint has closed really tight now, but the joint wasn't as good at the top as it is at the bottom. So by cutting through, you're doing two things: you're cleaning the joint and you're making it perfectly parallel. So you'll also see that my setting just slightly misaligned at the bottom, but because I've got quite a bit of heavy hammering to do on that, the setting will spread, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm now going to run a little bit of flux in there, and then I'm going to just tap it into the collet block hole again, and that will tighten the joint back up. Now doing this, I'm taking off the flux from the outer surface, because I don't want any fluids on the collet block, because it will start rusting if I do that. So the flux is in the joint. It's very hard to get the flux perfectly in the joint once it's as tight as it's going to get, so that's why I've done it now. An upside down tap first, and then into the one that you finished on before, and just check it's tightened up. If it's not tightened up enough, it means that your hammer's just contacting the top of the collet block, so you're just going to have to put it in the next one down, and just a little tap like that. It's going to cause a little bit of a tool mark around the edge there, but that will come off once you start forming it again into that hole there when we come back. That solder, I put just a little dab of flux right on the top of the joint, and this will just invite the solder into the right place. I'm applying the heat mainly to the back of the, or opposite the joint, to start with. Just let the heat travel around and keep the temperature the same either side of the joint, and it should run through. And then just check the bottom to make sure it's gone right through to the bottom. Yep. I'll pickle that now. A little bit of a measurement check tells me now that I've got just about 6mm inside diameter, and outside diameter is over 9mm, so it's quite a large setting still, but the stone will sit on top and not inside. I'm going to now increase the height of the setting. I need a little bit higher, so around about a height of about 5mm, a comfortable 5mm though, so I've got pretty much 5mm there, so I'll take it to about 5.5 because I've got that little dip there that needs to be filed out. I've got the collet block on a rubber mat there to try and stop most of the noise. Again, earmuffs if you've got them. Now the hammering on top may have caused a little bit of a lip around the outside edge, but that is fine. So I'm just going to check again because I might need to just decrease the size of the top of the setting. It's now 6.5 inside because it's a little bit thinner, and I've got a height, if I put a general height, even with the misalignment there, it's at just over 6mm, so it's a good height now. But if I try my stone, it's going to almost sit inside. So I need to just close that. And this gives it a nicer shape as well. So I'll just slightly bring the claws in. So I'm turning it upside down, going to the next one up, and it should be just one accurate strike. Otherwise it tilts away. I'll do another one. Now if I try the stone, it should be in the right position. Just level the top of the setting, and then I can show you how the stone sits on it. You'll see when I place the stone on top of the setting, it sits halfway into the thickness of the setting wall. I'll do a quick measurement check. The inside is just under 6mm and the outside diameter is just under 9mm. Using a collet block, you can guarantee that if you flatten the setting into one of the holes, you can guarantee that the angle on the top and the walls is perfect, because that's an engineered block. It won't be out of line at all. Which means that the only area you need to work on to refine is the bottom part of the setting. I recommend that you take a reading with your dividers of the lowest part of the setting, which is the dip that I discovered earlier, and just scribe around. This setting isn't too far off, so I just need to concentrate on filing, or just lean my file over this direction here to get it perfectly angled. I'll keep an eye on that line as a file and make sure that I don't go past it anywhere. We'll now work on the shank. That's 3.5mm square at the moment, so I'm going to roll that to 3mm square. That's 3mm square now, and I've got a length of 5 centimeters. I'm going to mark off 10mm on both ends, and I'm just going to flatten out the middle bit. So open the rolls up, squeeze the rolls onto the middle bit. Just make sure that the line doesn't disappear, so you want to keep that in view, so don't roll past that on both sides. Tighten up again. And the second or third time you do that, it'll get stuck as it finds the mark where it's got thicker at the end, so you don't have to concentrate too hard on going too far. So tighten up again, and then I'll do a check. That's how it's looking. Still a bit thick, and it's probably too short still. It's over 2mm thick, which is quite thick for a shank. Lengthwise, we've not got 6 centimetres yet. I want to get to around about 6.5 centimetres. However, we do need to roll these the opposite way. I'll show you shortly. I'll just tighten it down a bit more, and I'll get it to about 1.7 thick. Got 1.8, so a little bit more. Now that's 1.7, and width-wise that's 4mm, so that's a very substantial shank. I'm going to anneal that and work on the ends. So just have a closer look at that before I anneal it. So I've just rolled up to the marks that I made earlier. I'm now going to roll the ends to 2mm. So you need to turn the metal sideways like that, so you're looking at the edge of the shank. I'm going to roll it that way. I'm going to take the ends to around about 2mm. I'll anneal that again. We need to now bring the ends together to form the ring. If you've got a ring bender, then obviously use that. I've got this handheld ring bender, which is a great tool, so it's very easy to bend a ring the way it really doesn't want to bend. Because I made the ends 2mm thick, I can still use my half round pliers, although it is quite difficult. If I made it any narrower, it would want to twist or pull away, so that's why I stopped rolling at 2mm. I am going to flatten it out a little bit more. So use what you've got. I'll stick with the pliers. So this is my ring bender, my first choice. Like I say, I'm not going to use it for this, but if you've got one, it's a fantastic tool to use, and you'll see this featured in a lot more of my videos. I'm going to resort to my mandrel. I've got it in a vise and start to twist away that way, so I'll just flatten it first. And with I've got a chasing hammer here. You're much better off with a steel hammer of some sort rather than a rawhide mallet. You'll work a lot faster this way. So I'm just tapping the ends. It's still very open, so I'll just work it slowly. I'll close it up a little bit more. I've got the shoulders to curve enough now to solder them together, and then I can form it into a better shape. Once it's together, it'll be a lot easier. So I'm going to cut through that to close the joint together a little bit tighter. It's sprung together, so it's the tension's in it, and that'll help to just close the joint up. I'm not looking for a perfect joint for this. I'm just going to run some hard solder into the joint, and once I've shaped it, I'm going to open the joint back up again, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now I can shape it to a perfect ring. Try not to flatten the top too much, because we're going to spread that out to make a knife edge. The ring might look a little bit wobbly this way. If that's the case, just flatten it out. Just want to blend the shoulders to the shank rather than it swelling quite rapidly from shoulder to shank. I'm just going to hammer a gradual taper. A knife edge can be created on the edge of an anvil or a block like this, just by working right on the edge and angle the hammer out that way, so you should get a nice shape by doing it this way. I'll take you back over to the rolls because there is another way to do this.